Okay guys, in today's video, I'm going to talk you through how I went from being a broke personal trainer who's totally overburdened, working insane hours, typically from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. every single day on the gym floor, to running now a multi-seven-figure health consulting and coaching business online. I'm now 27 and I started personal training at the age of 18. So to give you guys a little bit of context as it pertains to my objectives when I was the age of 18, my objective really was to mirror what my idols had done in the space, the likes of Christian Guzman, etc. I wanted to be a content creator and build a coaching business and monetize my personal brand on the back end of the content I uploaded. I realized pretty quickly that was a bit of a pipe dream. I didn't have the physique of a Christian Guzman, nor necessarily the desire to upload content in terms of frequency that he had done so, and I definitely couldn't replicate his success. And therefore, of course, I transitioned into building my personal training business. I started off in Hastings, where I'm from. Once I finished my personal training qualification, having finished my A-levels, to moving to central London and working in a gym called Gymbox in Old Street. And you guys can see some photos here. That's Robin Gallant. I would have been like 18, 19 in this photo, really awkwardly asking for a photo. And that's my first day at Gymbox. At the age of 18, and I was by far the youngest personal trainer working that gym. Central London gym, near Moorgate, near the city. Pretty intense work environment. And as soon as I started working there, obviously you're self-employed, we were paying gym rent. It was about £1,500 per month to work there. And I had no clients, no pipeline, nothing at all. Obviously being self-employed, I wasn't going to be handed leads, and therefore I had to work my absolute arse off. I was getting to the gym at 6 a.m, trying to pick up as many clients as I possibly could, take a little bit of a break in the mid-morning until, of course, our midday slots in terms of the gym starting to fill up once again. And then, of course, the evening as well. And extremely long work hours, but I really enjoyed it. And I gained huge benefits from working with clients in in-person capacity for the better part of about 2 years in central London. On average, doing about 6 or 7 sessions per day, charging about £80 per hour at the time. So yeah, I was extremely fatigued, overburdened, didn't really see much longevity in that space, and therefore, of course, wanted to continue to pursue online business. And therefore, on top of everything I was doing in in-person capacity, I started to push online as a priority of mine. You guys can see a couple of videos here. Hopefully, the volume turn up, turn the volume down, of myself and seeing my PT clients. That's my birthday when I'm working with a client, a guy called Daniel Webble, who's big in the real estate space, actually. I look extremely tired and fatigued, and I was. And then fortunately, of course, turned my attention towards building an online business. So in between my personal training clients, I'd record content and I'd reach out to as many prospects as I possibly could. But in order to, of course, ensure that there was validity to my framework, my method to my madness in terms of trying to acquire clients online, I started operating as a low ticket coach, charging about £150 per month per client I was working with. I was working with anyone and everyone I possibly could do to help them achieve some kind of physical fitness outcome and goal in online capacity. Oftentimes it was young guys, particularly students or guys at university, wanting to build their physiques and replicate what I'd done with my own physique. Other individuals who had athletic pursuits in terms of professional sports, etc., also wanted to work with me there as well, which is cool. So I got some understanding of how to work with clients in online capacity and build some systems and framework for delivery in that regard. But of course, I wanted more, and I wanted to build a high-ticket online coaching business, knowing that charging £150 per month per client required a lot of clients to make good money, which was going to be extremely fatiguing. And essentially, I'll be switching from working in in-person capacity to working online, but I'd still be slaving away. So I invested in a mentor. The guy was called Sterling Griffin. And the program, I believe, was about $7,000, $8,000. And I'd never been on a sales call before. It was a pretty high-pressure sales call. I remember feeling quite intimidated by the whole thing at the time, because I would have been 18 or 19, and I would have been allocating my entire life savings at that time to invest in that program. And I took the sales call in the Gymbox office in Old Street, which PTs weren't allowed in, but fortunately enough, the sales guys allowed me to take the call in there, and it would have been about 9 p.m. It would have been after my PT clients, because the actual program that I was investing in was based in the US. So their operational hours were very, very different. So I finished with my PT clients, I jumped in the sales call. I was really hesitant. I wasn't quite convinced by the premise of the product or the legitimacy of the coaches and their competency in the program. So I didn't close on that call. I followed up the next day and I was like, fuck it, let's do it. Let's go ahead with it. Let's make it happen. I've got to invest. I've got to put my money where my mouth is and make it happen. So I invested the 7, 8K into the program. I can't remember exactly how much it was. It was around that price. I enrolled in the course, got access to Kajabi, and the program was shot on an iPhone. The contents of it was absolute dog shit, and I was so pissed. I was so frustrated. And I didn't actually believe the guy that was educating me had even run a fitness coaching business, which, of course, I was extremely frustrated by, but I'd already signed the agreement, which was a non-refund agreement, rather naively, because I'd never made an investment like this before. And that was that. But investing that much money, which, of course, at the time was my life savings, meant that I therefore committed to building my online coaching business, and I worked day and night to pursue this. And as a byproduct of that, by the age of 20, I celebrated my first $30,000 a month online. And I'll talk you guys through how I facilitated that. So I didn't have a big personal brand or anything like this. I was simply posting content whilst, of course, I was working as a PT. I'd oftentimes film content in the disabled toilets in Gym Box, which was used as a storage room because there's nowhere else for me to film content at the time. And of course, they didn't want PTs filming loads of content on the gym floor. That wasn't their business, right? A Gym Box as an entity. So yeah, that's how I did it. And I was reaching out to about 300 people per day on as many social media platforms I possibly could. So via email, via Instagram primarily. Instagram, there wasn't so much of a block on how many individuals you could reach out to per day. There wasn't so much of a limit at the time. This was back in like 2017. So I was reaching out to as many people as I possibly could do, having identified my niche being individuals in the business and entrepreneurship space, both in a brick and mortar capacity and also online. And I identified where to find them. I'd go on to people like Grant Cardone's Instagram, look at his following list, and then message all the entrepreneurs that he followed. And I'd continue that pattern. I'd then go onto their following list, etc., message them, etc., etc. At the time, I was also doing a little bit of work on the side for a talent management agency in the influencer space called 16th Talent, which I believe still operates. It was operated by a guy called Danny Lowney, who's from Brighton, so pretty close to where I was from when I was a kid. Yeah, it still operates. I believe he exited from it relatively recently, though. And I spotted him in the gym. His office was nearby to Gym Box, and I spotted him in the gym. I knew what he was doing with his business, and I asked him if I could work for him for free 1 day a week. He allowed me to do so. It was on Tuesdays. I'd do my PT clients in the morning, come to work for him 9 to 5, and I'd be doing brand outreach. So I learned how to essentially effectively deliver outreach to acquire opportunity. And I was doing outreach on his behalf to establish brand deals for his influencers, the likes of now Ali Abdal, but at the time it was Ryan Libby, Rob Lipsett, people in the fitness space, I believe Amanda Bucci as well. They had a few big guys on the talent roster. So I was working with him. Anyway, he then got invited to a fitness expo, I believe called FitCon in London, which I don't think any longer exists, which on the weekend. So I rocked up to that with Danny, and I was helping him out, build some relationships, speak to people, etc. at the time. And I bumped into Iman Gadzhi outside, and Iman would have been about 16, 17, and he was working as a videographer for Shan Hanif, who now runs Genflow, which of course is a massive company now. Bumped into him. I think he'd been on a night out the night prior, and of course he wasn't necessarily pushing at that moment in time to build his business, but it was just getting things off the floor. And was more so a media agency as opposed to just a marketing agency at the time. And he's working with Shan. So he followed Shan around with the camera. I obviously exchanged details with Iman and went from there. As a byproduct, I started to be connected with people in Shan Hanif's circle because Shan was also shooting content with his fitness influencers for Genflow at Gym Box. I then went to a few events with Iman, etc., in which there was Genflow events, which at the time I believe was a different company name, but it's now Genflow. One of the events being in Marble Arch. So I built a relationship with Iman, and then a few months passed by. I was still doing everything online and also in person. And he then started looking for a fitness and health coach in in-person capacity. Now, at the time I'd acquired my first few high-ticket clients, I was charging $1,000 per month for a few clients online, having learned how to essentially manage outreach effectively and acquire clients in that mechanism and take sales calls, etc. And I reached out to him saying, hey man, I'd happily jump in, let's make it happen. So I started working with him in in-person capacity. I'd coach him in person, then travel over to Gym Box, see my in-person clients, and then take care of my online clients as well. So I was, my hours were ridiculously lengthy. Anyway, started a relationship with him there. Of course, he started publicizing my offer, the work I was doing with him, etc. And that transpired into having messages being sent to me by individuals wanting to work with me also, the likes of Dan Vass, Bastian Slot, etc. Individuals who were big in the education space at the time, online education space. and I started developing a high ticket service around working with them. Now, initially I was charging 5K for a 12-week service in the one-to-one capacity in which I'd help them optimize all variables of their health. That's now transformed into my service being a 20K offer at this exact moment in time, 8 years later. So it's the same offer, same fundamental hypothesis in terms of what I'm delivering and the outcome I provide. And I've now worked with about 800 people in this capacity as well, on a one-to-one level. So yeah, started building relationships with the likes of Iman. As you guys can see here, this is on my actual YouTube channel as well, my health YouTube channel. I shot videos like this with all the clients I was working with, and therefore acquired a huge amount of inbound traffic for my service and started scaling. And by the time I was 20, I had my first pretty decent month in business. As you guys can see here, that's £23,000 processed, which is about 30K USD. And now, yeah, I've now worked with over 800 clients in that capacity. You guys can see the kind of prices I'm charging here. That's when I was charging 15K. Other deals, it depends on how much I'm charging for the individual and what deliverables I'm facilitating, but you guys can see all of this here as well. And of course, after that, also I've started working with other coaches to help them build their businesses as well, and which is why I'm recording this video. But I just want to talk you guys through some of the fundamental lessons that I've learned from building my business over the years, which I wish people had communicated to me when I first started out, and I wish I paid attention to and opened my eyes to in terms of building awareness of it. So yeah, once you acquire a big player in the space, you're bound to acquire a ton of inbound traffic for your service, particularly if they're happy to promote your services. If you're in a situation in which you've produced content which is valuable, you started to acquire some attention, perhaps you built a relationship with a person of notoriety and somewhat fame, build an affiliate deal with them in which you pay them a percentage of the deal you acquire from the inbound traffic they drive towards your service and your product. For the individuals that I have relationships with, individuals that have a significant audience, if they send a client across to me or refer a client to me, I pay them 10% of the fee that I charge. So if it's 20K, they get 2K back, right? And that's the relationship I build with them as a thank you for sending them clients to me. And a lot of my clients come from word of mouth and referrals, which is brilliant. It's awesome. And it means that, again, I don't have to constantly promote my service. I don't have to spam people. I don't have to run paid traffic. I can operate as a one-man band, a one-person team, very effectively work with my clients in one-to-one capacity because my acquisition methods are very consistent. And again, a lot of them come from word of mouth and referrals due to relationships I built over time. So if you have the opportunity to do so, build relationships with the right people and make sure you pay them back as a thank you for, of course, driving traffic and clients your way. Prior to getting to that point, in order to get to that position in which you can acquire people or build relationships with people of notoriety and fame, you need to be producing content. I appreciate many of you guys, of course, right now you are consuming content. You must build a relationship in which the ratio of content produced relative to the ratio of content consumed is greater. You must be producing content and providing ample value to a select group of individuals, your niche, in order to, of course, ensure they perceive you as being a reputable authority who can add value to their lives. It's incredibly important, particularly in this day and age in which outreach has very little impact at this exact moment in time due to the amount of messages most individuals receive to their inbox on a daily basis. I personally receive about 50 messages per day on Instagram alone of people offering me services like short form editing, operating for me as an appointment setter, etc. To the extent where I don't check my inbox anymore. I have resentment to doing so due to the volume of messages that I receive personally. Therefore, again, it is absolutely essential that you create content and therefore acquire inbound traffic and eyeballs via that mechanism specifically. Of course, I'm a massive advocate of YouTube, always will be, due to the size and significance of the platform relative to other platforms. And I think video as a medium is just the best medium for conversion purposes anyway. So again, I'm a massive advocate of that. So rather than being so fixated on the new and most sexy acquisition methods, whether it be an outreach method in terms of building an outbound team, whether it be a new form of paid traffic you can potentially leverage, etc., continue to upload content on a weekly basis consistently. And I can guarantee you, provided, of course, you have a legitimate offer premise and there is viability with the offer, and you start to deliver a high-level service which you build a good reputation for, and thus, of course, positive word of mouth and referrals, you'll build a business pretty quickly. But again, you have to build these foundations, otherwise you're quite frankly screwed. And that goes back to the authority video I recorded earlier today pertaining towards the categories of authority you must lean into in order to have success in this current landscape of fitness and health coaching online. Very, very important. Those are fundamental lessons that I like to communicate for today. Another lesson that I like to discuss is the importance of leaning into your why as it pertains to your service. So for me personally, my why was twofold. I lost my dad to cancer. As you guys can see, he was a very successful graphic designer, did things like the Champions League logo, who's part of the team that did that. Jammy Dodgers, which is a massive biscuit brand or kind of biscuit in the UK. Andrex, Lou Roll, Jaffa Cakes, etc. was very successful, but unfortunately we lost him back in 2020, just before COVID lockdown was enforced. So that was one of my motivating factors for teams to build my business, because I can see in him, or I can see in other people, the mistakes my dad made in terms of sacrificing his health in some capacity. But obviously, again, unfortunately, it was just a roll of the dice. My dad got cancer. It's not something which you can necessarily entirely mitigate. But he didn't necessarily take care of himself, and that, of course, sort of exacerbated potential pre-existing issues as it pertains to his health. My other why, and the reason why I communicate this, is because people resonate with this. Most people have lost people to illness, disease, cancer, etc. And it's a potent why for me to continue to build what I'm building and share my message publicly. And it motivates me, and people resonate with it. And it's personable. Second why, of course, being personally, I want to do whatever it takes to win. And in order to do this, I need to maximize my health and my physiology. The same thing applies to all clients that I work with. It's very difficult to perform at your best and ensure that you can facilitate growth in your business if, of course, you haven't taken care of your health and you're suffering from what I can showcase here on screen, and you're performing at max 60% of your capacity. It's not viable to continue to grow and build. And that's why the clients that I work with me personally. And of course, it's a message which they resonate with and embody. Hence, of course, their decision to actually work with me in the first place. That's another variable of importance to take into account. The final thing I'd like to share for today, because I appreciate we're now getting on a little bit with the video, is don't feel rushed to build a team for your business. I've operated for the majority of my career as a one-person army. I am the salesperson, I am the content creator, I am the service fulfillment person. I've tried to build teams previously of outbound setters, sales team, fulfillment coach, etc. And I just don't like it, to be totally transparent with you. The level that most people demand of themselves, it by no means meets or aligns with the level that I'd expect of them as individuals that I pay to work for me. And I found it very frustrating communicating that kind of level that I expect from them. Truthfully, I just really disliked managing people. I didn't get into being a coach in this capacity to manage people. I operate a very successful, very profitable business as a one-person army, to the extent where I make more money on a monthly basis in terms of profit than that of individuals operating teams of 10, 20, 30 people. It depends on how they operate their business, but I know plenty of people who have what looks like a very successful business from the outside, but internally, in terms of their margins, they're crap. And I enjoy my day to day. I get to train, I get to take care of my health, I get to walk my dogs, I get to spend time outside, I get to play sports. I find fulfillment in things other than just work, which then also results in me really enjoying my work as well, as opposed to having to have to manage team, check Slack all the time, etc. All the things that I have done previously, which leads us to another point. Don't jump into a business relationship or partnership. Don't do it. Take time. I've personally partnered with 2 business partners previously, and within a period of about 3 months of each relationship, I've realized very quickly, I don't want to work with this person. I'm going to resent my business now, which sucks. And my perception was that I needed to work with people to build what I was doing, when in reality, the variables that facilitate growth in my business are very straightforward: content production and service delivery and fulfillment. Yes, there will be limits to how much I can manage on my own. I totally appreciate that. And when I find the right people to hire, I will do so. But I'm not in a rush to do so, because I can manage things pretty effectively on my own terms, particularly given the price that I charge for the clients I work with one-to-one, meaning I don't have to work with a huge amount of individuals on a monthly basis. I can limit how many people I work with and make significant amounts of money, much more than that of other individuals, charging lesser prices for their services. But the business relationships thing in terms of co-founders is extremely important, because I got to a point back in 2024 where I really, truly resented my business due to the person I was working with. That person was adamant in the need for, or demanded that we jumped on calls on a daily basis, frequent check-in points, etc. And it was just so unproductive. It was totally counterproductive. It became extremely anal, to be frank, and removed the fulfillment and enjoyment from most work components totally unnecessarily, and was way too systems orientated, to the extent where systems became our primary focus as opposed to actual acquisition and delivery, which is absolutely mental. But I'll dive into that another time. But yeah, those are a few key observations, the key things that I've taken note of throughout my career thus far. I'm 27. I'm again 8-9 years deep into my career thus far. If you guys want to work with me directly and learn from me directly to help build your fitness and health coaching and consulting business, you can click the link in the description below. It will take you through to my school. I'm charging the least amount of money I possibly can do to work with fitness and health coaches in one-to-one capacity and help them build online. You can see the results of the individuals that I work with in the About page on school as well. Feel free to check that out. And if you have any questions, of course, pertaining to this video, drop them in the comment section down below. Drop me a message via Instagram. And I shall catch you guys in the next one.